to some extent what Mr. Flowers made, the statement he made. I've been asked multiple times by people from all walks of life, either why we chose not to put together a regulation in regards to killing contests, as Commissioner Young has just alluded to. Twice we were asked to do that. Twice we denied moving forward with regulation. So in my mind, we're going to get continually asked that question until we write a regulation, or we need a policy that states why we didn't move forward with the regulation, in my mind. The value of that is when someone asks that, whether it's John Q. Public or a legislator next door in 3 months, at least this commission has spoken on a united front that these are the reasons we don't think a regulation is needed. Now, that would require an update of the policy to enumerate those reasons, but I think we have plenty of footage and tape to go back and do that. Now, if we don't believe we need a policy to spell that out for the public and for the legislature, if they decide to take this up, then whoever the lucky representative is in those meetings, I guess, can review the tapes and come up with that on their own. But in my mind, at least, if we're not going to move forward with a regulation, this would provide a clear directive to the public and to anyone else why we didn't move forward with the regulation. And I think it would provide some sense of leadership from this commission on expecting a higher standard as to how contests are carried out in the future. So I guess that would be my argument for the reasons for having a policy. And if future commissions don't like it, they can change it. We've changed about 3 policies in the last 2 days that were enacted by a previous commission, so I'm not afraid of that.
Further comments?
I just, ask you a question, Jeremy. When you say specific to wildlife killing and differentiating between it and coyote killing contests, go into that a little bit deeper in the policy, because like I said, I just want to move on to something else. I can live with what you just said, but I don't want big buck contests inserted in there, because I don't think there's a thing wrong with those. And I don't think most hunters or sportsmen feel that there is. There's a big difference between that, and that could be construed as a wildlife killing contest by just simply delineating the Boone and Crockett score or whatever the use of measure they were talking about. Whereas the stack and rack 'em and stack 'em, or whatever that stupid comment was that was made by that idiot commissioner that preceded us, that is totally wrong, and I'm dead set against that type of use of our wildlife, whether it's considered game or not, just against my ethics. So explain that, and maybe I can support that.
Mr. Drew. Yeah, so when the petition was brought before us prior, both times I believe the petition stated right in the title that it was a petition against wildlife killing contest. Didn't say coyote. We had discussions back and forth, a lot of the same discussions. Well, what is in a wildlife contest? I think in part that's probably why we chose to deny the petitions on 2 accounts, because there was no clear definition being offered by the petitioner. There was no clear definition or even remotely consensus on a definition. I think Commissioner Johnston showed us today how wide a range there is and what is a definition of a contest. I think that's one of many reasons why we chose not to regulate contests going forward. But I think being specific to one species would probably lead us down the path of having 75 different policies on 75 different species. In my mind, if you're going to move forward with a policy, leave it broad and enumerate the reasons why we didn't move forward with a regulation. And to be honest, I think where we state the commission supports contests that do and contests that do not, that could be specific to everything from a big buck contest to a coyote contest, my opinion.
Vice Chairman Johnston.
I'd like to go back to an issue that came up the first time the petition came. And I asked point blank to the petitioners, do you want this commission to reclassify the coyote under Nevada Administrative Code as something other than unprotected? And I got a flip answer about not this commission. If you go through the code, and I tried to explain this the first time that we heard this petition, and I can't believe I hear public comments saying, well, will this commission take a stand? We have entertained 2 petitions and denied them. We're being accused of subverting the issue. This is the second time we've publicly heard this policy, and on 2 prior occasions we heard petitions. We have done our job in listening to the public. But under the code, wild mammals are defined as either game, fur-bearing, protected, or unprotected. The coyote falls under the classification of unprotected. I made it clear when we entertained these petitions, well, do we want to go down the route and reclassify the coyote as a game mammal? And I said, I suspect the petitioners don't want us to do that, because then we're going to have a coyote hunting season. And they didn't want to go down the path. They wanted to have their cake and eat it too. So they don't want to come forward and say, regulate it as a game mammal, because then they have to recognize there's going to be a hunting season on coyotes. And so we keep getting caught up in this. There is a reason why we have not taken a stance on regulating these contests, and that is because, as it stands now, the coyote is an unprotected species in the state of Nevada. Now, if we want to go down the path, and this is what I said, of regulating coyote hunting and reclassify the coyote as something, as a game mammal, then maybe that's the decision for this commission to do. But I suspect in many parts of this state, people are going to come forward and say, well, wait a minute, you're now telling me I'm a farmer or a rancher, I need a hunting license and everything else if I see a coyote on my property? You know, there's more to it than just this regulate to ban. And I just find it hard to believe some of the comments and criticisms have been directed at the commission. But I'm gonna continue on. I don't dislike the coyote. I don't want to see the coyote eradicated from Nevada or anywhere else. I've made this comment on public meetings in the past. You know, I drive on the way here today. Since I was leaving early in the morning, I thought, I wonder how many coyotes I'm going to see out in the fields today, because I like seeing them. I think they're a cool animal, and the way they hunt and the way they prowl through the alfalfa fields this time of year where I live. So that's not, there's no dislike. I don't want to get rid of them. But what I'm hearing from the public is nobody wants this policy. Nobody has asked this commission to adopt the policy as drafted. I haven't even heard people really suggest an alternative policy. What I've heard is adopt a regulation to ban the contests. And some of the things we received was to ban all wildlife contests. And then that same advocate broadly defines that. I have to be blunt. I view this as part of an anti-hunting agenda. When I see that, when they sit there and say ban all contests, and they themselves equate any type of trophy hunting as a killing contest on their own website, that's anti-hunting agenda that's being proposed. I can't see how people get together and just kill some animals. A bunch of friends of mine got together last week and we went chucker hunting, and I'm sure there's a lot of people says, I don't know how a bunch of guys could just get together and want to go shoot a bird. I'm sure there's people out there that would say that. Just as the way they say, I can't believe a group of people would want to go out and kill coyotes. But I certainly don't think there's anything wrong with a group of guys getting together, as we do every year up in Gerlach, and having a social event and hunting chucker for a few days. It's a great experience that I look forward to every year. And I certainly, people are going to say, well, that's different than a coyote contest. But for some people, it's no different, because they're opposed to that type of thing. So people are just assuming that gambling's occurring. People are assuming that the contest is always based upon the number of coyotes taking. These are a lot of assumptions that are being worked in here to push an argument to ban contests. So if we developed a policy, said, okay, no gambling, base your prizes or something, or any type of winner on on something other than the number of coyotes taken. Is that going to address the issue? No. It's not going to address the issue. So, I said it in my earlier comments. I think we either move forward to regulate coyote hunting and in the process address contests, bag limits, and seasons, or we don't. And to just adopt an amorphous policy, I don't think that advances the ball. I think we've made clear as to why we haven't moved forward on regulating the coyote contest in 2 prior public meetings, although I wasn't at the second one. I'm kind of rambling on now, but I have all these notes here, and the same issues keep coming up, and it seems like we're not getting anywhere.
Consolation, Commissioner, you said what I'm really trying to express in much more better rambling than mine, because I am never going to vote for any anti-hunting agenda, period, while I'm alive and still on this commission.
I'm going to add one other. I was up in Kodiak, Alaska last year, and we were in a sporting goods store, and there was a picture of a very, very small buck on the wall. And I said, someone paid to have that taxidermy? And they said, well, that won the small buck contest we have here in Kodiak. They have a contest there of who can get the smallest buck of the deer that are up on that island. And I kind of like, well, that's odd, and I never really thought about that. I can imagine a lot of people having a very negative reaction to that type of contest. But I don't think I should be in Kodiak, Alaska, telling people who live there and hunt there what they should and should not do. But I'll go back to something I've said. I think there is a cultural divide. There are some people who view certain activity as completely wrong, and some people who say it's perfectly acceptable. And I don't think we can thread the needle with a policy to bridge that cultural divide, and certainly not with the one that's written and proposed here.
Commissioner Hubbs?
The first iteration of the policy that came through, one of the points that I brought up was that we didn't really expound on or delineate, even though most of us will know, some may not, the North American model of wildlife conservation. I think if we put that in our policy, we would start to see killing contests that were not in, were something contrary to what the commission supported, and it would become evident over time. But again, I think the whole purpose of the policy, yes, I understand what Commissioner Young is stating. I also understand what I'm just going to say Johnston, it's Vice Chairman, I know, sorry. But at the same time, having lived through both of those commission meetings, seeing the concern of the public, I do think we're backstepping. I think it's a bit disingenuous to state that we're going to deny their petition. And the way I looked at their second petition, it met all of the procedural requirements to be heard. I do think at that meeting, our commission actually did speak. We didn't have all commissioners there, but I think there were 2 of us who supported the regulation, or at least going through that process to look at a regulation in that capacity. The rest decided not to do that. I don't want to hold the public as they come up and hold them to the standard that they need. I mean, I hardly understand sometimes the difference between rulemaking and statute and regulatory code. I'm an attorney too, but I mean, to just come up here and say that they want a regulation or rule or law against it doesn't mean that they don't understand that the policy can't be that. They may just not understand what a policy is versus a regulation, but what I'm hearing is they don't like that. They don't like the contest. And I think if we say nothing, we are still going to keep continuing to have this come to us. I think it's not going to go away. And at least take a stance and let them know. I mean, if we're all comfortable up here saying, hey, myself personally, I wouldn't partake in that type of event, then I don't understand why our commission wouldn't support a policy stating the same. It's non-binding. It is a tool that can be used perhaps by legislature if they ever feel they want to pass legislation, but it's nothing more than that. And just like the whole idea between the rack 'em and stack 'em, I mean, yeah, we may have a different commission later on, and we could repeal that policy. That's not an issue. But it's where does our commission stand today? And I think I want to continue to, and I will support passage of this policy, and I may be the only one, because I don't want to say we're going to do something and then not do it.
Commissioner Olmberg?
Yeah, I'd just like to address the question is why? Why kill a predator? I think it's for the same reason that we collect a $3 predator management fee. You can't manage prey without managing predators, and you got to manage all resources because the predators affect not just the game species but all wildlife, and all livestock are food source. That's the basis.
Commissioner Valentine?
Thank you. I'm going to go back to my original statement, which was basically the Policy and Procedure Committee was tasked with putting together a policy regarding wildlife contests, and I think we accomplished that. And going forward, we had a lot of discussion at one of the meetings in which it was obvious to me that even though the policy I felt addressed what it was we were tasked for, was not adequate. And I got the impression that perhaps they were still looking to regulate. And I still think that is the situation. So even though I feel the policy is a good policy, maybe it's not time to adopt that policy. And I don't feel it's time to regulate either. So I don't know exactly where to stand. I like the policy as written. I think it makes a statement, and I'll stand by that.
Commissioner McNinch?
Okay, so Commissioner Valentine, you've kind of wrapped up my thought on it. You know, I hear the idea of making it clear where we stand, what we're thinking. But I have to agree with you, so I'll ask you a quick question. Do you have any idea what might trigger that for you to go one way or the other? What's the trigger? Maybe it's a little rhetorical, but I'm going to ask it not rhetorically. Do you have an idea of what would trigger that for you? Because I'm struggling with it myself.
Well, to me, you know what? To enforce something, you got to have it occur often, and have situations where it's obvious, a lot more than I believe it's occurring now. And so I don't believe that we're seeing a lot of contests occurring. At least I haven't seen too many articles on them, etc. So, but I guess I would have to wait to see if we had an abuse way beyond what we're seeing right now. A lot more contests throughout the state, not just in the urban areas, but across the rural areas also.
Commissioner Young?
Have we attempted to quantify how many there's been verified in the last 3 years in the state? And is there a way, or is anybody actually quantifying them in a verifiable manner? In other words, something we can sink our teeth into, not just an old picture from 5, 6, 7 years ago that keeps being repeated. It's a bad idea that these things occur, and we actually know where they're at. We've seen them advertised, and we can pull them up readily on the internet or verify that they've actually taken place in the last 3 years. That'd give us something to maybe go where Paul's heading. And I don't know if the Enforcement Division has done that, or anybody from NDOW, or one of the other groups of folks that have been out here that, actually taken place to the level of what would require us to put that kind of effort into.
Commissioner Young, I have not seen anything like that either. I mean, the public has brought forth and said there's been this contest, and this contest. And at the same time, quantifying the take at any of these contests, So, I mean, there's 2, but I mean, so there's your 2 that you have in writing. But how many more beyond that, I couldn't tell you, and I don't know that anyone in the room could give you an actual number. Okay, so anecdotally, we have 3, and I know there's more. I'm not saying there isn't, but right here in front of us, this is what we have today. And listening to the comments from the commissioners, I think Commissioner Valentine said it best. It's not time to regulate, not time for policy, and I think the commission has actually proven that, because if you go over regulation petitions, twice we have turned those down. Now we're working on a policy that the first time we didn't move forward, and now the second time we've spent almost an hour and a half on it, and I honestly don't feel like we're any closer to having an answer now than we were 6 months ago. And I personally think at this point, and then also in one of the comments today from the public comment was the policy is of no use. So I mean, even now, we've even lost the public as thinking that the policy is a good idea in some aspect. I'm not saying all, but one of the public comment did say that. And we've moved from the contest, and now we're talking about the gambling aspect of it. So I mean, it's this moving target that I don't know that the commission's going to hit it. And I mean, like I said, we've heard the regulation twice as a petition and denied it. We've now heard the policy twice. We haven't denied it or moved it forward in either aspect at this point. So I'm kind of at a loss as to where to go with this, but I think at this point, I'm looking for a motion from the commission unless there's further comment, because we're down to 45 minutes and we're going to lose 4 of our commissioners that have to leave for a plane to Las Vegas. And we have quite a bit of agenda left. So I think I'm looking for a motion here to move forward or not move forward, which will then move us forward to the rest of our meeting.
I'll go ahead and make a motion today. I would like to motion that we approve the policy as written today on the policy regarding wildlife contest, policy number 25, as is.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? I do not have a second. The motion dies for a lack of a second. Commissioner McNinch.
I'm gonna explain why I didn't second it. I think a lot of my comments, but I'm gonna go back to the public comment. Out of the folks that spoke today, there were at least 4 that specifically stated the policy's not enough. I think they know, certainly as individuals listening to us in here, where we stand on it. I agree with a lot of the content in this thing. I do. I do agree with it. But I think that I'm a step beyond that. I think it's more important for me to find some resolution, and I'm not sure where that's at. I appreciate Commissioner Valentine's comments on what might trigger that for him, and maybe that makes some sense. What I find ironic is that if we leave here, and then there were several others that didn't specify one way or the other. They didn't necessarily specify. So to me, that's an indication. I mean, how else can I take it? You need to ban them, you need to do it with the regulation, or there's no specific comment on the policy. That's an indication to me that that's not working. So that's what I'm hearing, and that's what I'm basing my action on. Do I sit here and make a motion on putting a regulation together? I'm not sure that that's productive at this point either. What I find ironic is that we're probably subject to, we couldn't even express our concerns through a policy at some point when we've heard from the public clearly that that's not what they want. And so we're in a no-win. We're going to take heat one way or the other. And, it might be one of those things that for lack of any other motion or action, we're just moving on.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner McNinch. Any further commissioner comments?
No, I guess I'll comment. Yeah, I think basically, for sake of time, we just need to decide to move forward or not, and I think we've spoken, and so we just move forward.
I would just ask the chair, I mean, if it's the sense of the commission that we want to discard the policy, wouldn't it be cleaner to have that motion? I wouldn't necessarily support that motion, but that way we have it documented.
I kind of feel like that may be the case because it would give us some closure to something that we've been trying to close for 6 or 8 months. Commissioner Valentine.
At this particular point in time, I'll make a motion that we discard the policy presented for wildlife contests.
I have a motion by Commissioner Valentine. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Barnes. Does everyone understand the motion? The motion is to discard the policy on wildlife contests at this time. I'll call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
That would be 7-2, or was there a third? Okay, so it'd be 6-3 with Commissioners McNinch, Drew, and Hubbs dissenting. So we'll move on to agenda item